I'm going to tell you something that will make your heart stop for a second, maybe two. It's not a rumor. It's not a nightmare someone invented for a movie. It happened to me under my own roof inside the four walls I once called home. For 10 years, the boy I brought into this world, the baby I held against my chest, the child I worked my fingers raw to raise, violated me every single day while I lay there paralyzed, unable even to lift my left arm to defend myself. My own son raped me for a decade. If you're still reading, I know you have a strong stomach. Or maybe like me, you're simply tired of silence. People here in Savannah know me as Miss Ellie of the Herbs, the woman who sells medicinal teas at the Forsyth Farmers Market, the old lady with the warm smile and gentle advice about chamomile for sleep or peppermint for headaches. They see a kindly face behind a wooden stall lined with green bottles. They can't imagine the hell that hid behind that smile. I used to be a factory worker, a seamstress. I spent decades hunched over a machine in a textile plant on the industrial side of town, sewing clothes we could never afford to wear. The air was heavy with fabric dust. The fluorescent lights buzzed all day. My fingers cramped from the constant motion. But I did it every morning at 5 a.m. Breakfast made, lunch left ready for Junior, 2 buses to work, home at 6, still cooking dinner, still cleaning. All of it for my son. Junior's father left before he even held him. Said he was too young to be a dad. I was 19, scared and stubborn. I swore my boy would grow up knowing he was loved. I promised myself he'd have the opportunities one never had. I saved pennies for his school supplies, stayed up late sewing buttons on his uniforms, gave him the last bite of my sandwich when money ran thin. He was affectionate then. Least I thought so. He hugged me, helped around the house, told me he loved me. Those words were my fuel. But a seed can look healthy even while rot spreads inside it. The first signs were small, easy to dismiss. He'd stare at me too long when I walked out of the bathroom. His hugs lingered in ways that made me uncomfortable. Once he offered me a massage because he said I was tired from work. His hands started on my shoulders but drifted lower, slower, pressing where they shouldn't. When I protested, he laughed, called me paranoid, said I was imagining things. He made me feel guilty for suspecting my own son. I began to change my habits without even realizing why. Locking my bedroom door. Dressing in the bathroom. Avoiding being alone with him. I told myself I was tired, that the factory was making me jumpy, that I was overreacting. Because how do you accuse your own child of thinking such things? Then came the day that split my life into before and after. It was a Monday morning, March 15, 1998. The day began like every other, 5 a.m. Breakfast, lunch packed, 2 buses, the hum of the sewing machines. I was finishing a batch of women's blouses, concentrating on the stitches, when a pain like a hammer exploded at the base of my skull. The world tilted. The floor spun. I grabbed for the table but my fingers slipped. Women shouted. Machines stopped. Darkness closed over me like a door slamming shut. When I opened my eyes, I was in the hospital, tubes and wires sprouting from my body like vines. A doctor with tired eyes told me I'd had a stroke, a cerebral hemorrhage. He said stress had helped bring it on. I was 47. My left side was numb, heavy as cement. My left arm wouldn't move at all. My left leg dragged like it belonged to someone else. That's when my life became a cage. I needed help for everything: bathing, dressing, eating, even the toilet. Junior, 22 by then, said he would take care of me. He said he'd give up everything because I had given up everything for him. I was moved to tears. In those first days he was gentle, patient. He fed me, lifted me, washed me. I thought, this is the good son I raised. Then he sent the social worker away. Martha was her name, a kind woman in her 50s who came 3 times a week to help me bathe and do my exercises. She was experienced, respectful. But Junior kept finding fault with her. He said she was careless, rough, that she might hurt me. He complained until she quit. After that, the baths changed. They lasted longer. His hands lingered where they shouldn't. He told me a paralyzed person accumulates dirt in places normal people can't imagine, that only he could clean me properly. He cited internet articles, medical reasons, infection risks, cancer checks. Every disgusting touch came with a ready excuse. I began to realize something was terribly wrong, but I couldn't fight back. My left side was useless. My right hand had no strength. Screaming would do nothing. There was no one to hear. I was trapped inside my own body, watching a nightmare unfold and unable to stop it. Night after night, day after day, the line between care and violation blurred until it vanished. I lay there, stiff and silent, while my son, my boy, did things to me that no stranger had ever dared. He whispered about how much he loved me while his hands defiled me. He kissed my forehead like a caretaker after each act, tucking the blanket around me like I was a child. And I said nothing, because I had nowhere to go. Because the person who should have been my protector was my predator. Because part of me still couldn't believe it was real. I'm telling you this now because silence is where monsters live. And because what happened next turned my private hell into something even darker. Something I still see when I close my eyes at night. Do you know what it feels like to live in your own body as if it were a prison cell? To feel everything, to understand everything, and yet not have the power to resist? That was my reality. The doctors said I was lucky to have survived the stroke. Lucky. That's the word they used. But I didn't feel lucky. I felt trapped. At first, I told myself Junior was just clumsy, that he was learning how to take care of me, that his long baths and strange touches came from inexperience, not malice. I tried so hard to believe that. It was easier to think he was a confused boy trying to help his mother than to face the possibility that something evil was blooming inside him. But the excuses wore thin. His hands lingered too long. His eyes grew darker. His voice, when he whispered, didn't sound like love anymore. It sounded like possession. One night, he came into my room with a bottle of lotion. He said the doctor had recommended massages to keep my circulation going. He poured the lotion onto his hands and began rubbing my legs, my arms, my stomach. I told him to stop when his hands slipped under my nightgown. He ignored me. When I tried to move, my body betrayed me. My left side was useless. My right hand shook with weakness. He leaned down, kissed my forehead, and whispered, "I'm taking care of you, Mama. Don't fight me. You need this." That was the night I knew I wasn't imagining things. My son had crossed a line that could never be uncrossed. The days that followed were a blur of shame and silence. He continued to care for me, but every bath, every touch carried a threat. He had a way of smiling afterward, a smile that said, "I own you. You belong to me." And the worst part? I couldn't tell anyone. Who would believe me if I told them my own son was abusing me? A paralyzed woman accusing her only caretaker? I imagined the pitying looks, the whispers, the disbelief. Worse, I imagined Junior turning on me in front of others, acting outraged, saying I was confused, saying the stroke had damaged my mind. And maybe people would have believed him. So I kept quiet. The silence ate at me. At night, I cried into my pillow, careful not to let the sobs escape my throat. I prayed for God to take me in my sleep. I begged my dead mother to watch over me. But every morning, I woke up still in the same body, still in the same house, still under the same roof with my tormentor. And then he began to manipulate me in other ways. He controlled the money. My small disability check went into his hands. He told me it wasn't safe for me to manage it, that I might forget to pay bills or get scammed. He began deciding what we ate, when I could leave the house. I was like a prisoner whose jailer claimed to be her savior. Neighbors would come by sometimes, kind people who asked how I was doing. I wanted to scream, "Help me. He's hurting me." But Junior stood close by, his hand on my shoulder, his smile wide and proud, and the words never left my lips. He was smart, too smart. He never left bruises where anyone could see. He never raised his voice in public. To the outside world, he was the dutiful son who sacrificed everything to take care of his poor paralyzed mother. And I played my part. There's a kind of madness that grows in silence. A kind of sickness that seeps into your bones when you can't tell the truth. I began to feel like I was two people. The woman everyone saw, Miss Ellie, the gentle herb seller with a smile, and the woman inside the house, the prisoner, the victim, the mother raped by her son. As the years dragged on, I lost count of the days. They bled into each other, the same routine of forced care, forced intimacy, forced silence. But I never stopped thinking. Even in that cage I plotted. I told myself, one day I will speak. One day I will not be silent anymore. That day didn't come quickly. Took 10 years. 10 years of violation. 10 years of humiliation. 10 years of smiling for the neighbors and crying into my pillow. The turning point came in the most unexpected way. It was a Saturday morning. Junior had gone out to run errands. I was in the living room, the television buzzing in the background, when I heard a knock at the door. It was a young woman, no more than 20, selling church raffle tickets. She had freckles, red hair, and eyes so kind they made me want to weep. She asked me if I wanted to buy a ticket. I had no money of my own, so I shook my head. But before she left, she smiled at me and said, "God bless you, ma'am. Whatever you're going through, He sees it. He knows." I don't know why those words broke me. Maybe because it was the first time in years that someone looked at me as if I were human, not just a broken body in a chair. When she left, I cried harder than I had in years. And for the first time, the tears weren't just for me. They were for the other women I knew must exist, women trapped in silence, women suffering unspeakable things behind closed doors. That night, when Junior came into my room, I stared at the ceiling and made myself a promise. One day I will tell the world. Even if my voice shakes, even if no one believes me, I will not die with this secret rotting inside me. I didn't know how or when, but the seed of courage had been planted. Still, the years that followed tested me in ways I can barely put into words. Junior grew more controlling, more demanding. Sometimes he acted like a loving son in public, helping me sit at the table during family gatherings, bringing me tea, adjusting my blanket. Other times, behind closed doors, his eyes burned with something darker, something twisted. He told me I owed him, that no one else would ever take care of me, that I was his. His. The word made my skin crawl. I began to dream of escape. But how does a half-paralyzed woman escape the man who controls her every move? I thought about poisoning his food with herbs from my little garden. I thought about screaming when visitors came, forcing the truth into the air no matter the consequences. But fear always tied my tongue. And then one night something happened that changed everything. Junior came home later than usual, drunk. He stumbled into my room, reeking of whiskey. His eyes were wild, his voice slurred. He leaned over me, his breath hot on my face, and said, "You're all I have, Mama. You'll always be mine." Then he said something that froze my blood. "If you ever tell anyone, I'll kill you." That was the moment I knew this wasn't just about control anymore. This was about survival. The words echoed in my head like a bell tolling at a funeral. "If you ever tell anyone, I'll kill you." I had feared him before, but that night I understood something far worse. My own son was not only my abuser but also my captor. He had no limits anymore. My life was in his hands and he knew it. For weeks after that, I lived in a fog of terror. Every sound in the house made me jump. Every time he poured me a glass of water or handed me a plate of food, I wondered if he might poison me, just to silence me forever. The nights were the worst. I would lie in bed, staring at the ceiling, afraid to close my eyes, afraid to feel his footsteps coming down the hall. But fear can do strange things to a person. Can break you. Or it can force you to think in ways you never thought possible. I began to scheme. Not openly. Not in a way he could notice. But quietly, in the folds of my mind, I started making plans. I had herbs after all. Remedies, roots, plants I sold at the market. People thought of me as Miss Ellie of the herbs. The healer, the one with the smile and the soothing tea. But those same herbs that could heal could also harm if used differently. I began to wonder, if I ever had to defend myself, could I use them against him? I hated myself for even thinking it. This was my son. My baby. The boy I raised with lullabies and bedtime stories, the boy I gave everything for. The thought of harming him made me sick. But then his words came back to me, whispered like a snake in the dark. "I'll kill you." What choice did I have? Still I kept silent. Outwardly I played my role. I smiled at neighbors. I thanked him for his care. I pretended everything was normal. But inside the storm raged. And then, something unexpected happened. Junior started bringing women home. At first I thought maybe, just maybe, he was moving on, finding someone his own age, someone who could take his attention away from me. But that hope was short-lived. The women didn't stay long. They came once or twice, then disappeared. I overheard them arguing. I heard his angry voice, his slamming fists against the walls. Once I even saw a girl run down the street from our house, her face streaked with tears. Terrified me even more. If he treated strangers like that, what did it mean for me? One night he came home furious. His face was red, his fists clenched. He had broken up with another woman. He stormed into my room, pacing like a wild animal. I stayed silent, hoping he would calm down, but instead he turned on me. You see, Mama? You're the only one who doesn't leave me. You're the only one who stays. That's why you're mine. Always. He grabbed my chin, forced me to look at him. His eyes were bloodshot, his breath sour. I wanted to disappear. I wanted to sink into the bed and never come back. That night, after he finally stumbled out of the room, I made a decision. I couldn't wait for someone to save me. No one was coming. If I wanted to survive, I would have to save myself. But how? That question haunted me for months. And then slowly opportunities began to appear. At the farmer's market, people would chat with me while buying herbs. They asked how I was doing, how life at home was. I wanted to scream the truth. But Junior was always close by, hovering, listening. So I said the same thing every time. I'm doing fine, thank you. One day, though, a woman named Ruth stopped by. She was older, maybe in her 60s, with kind eyes and a sharp mind. She bought chamomile tea, but before she left, she leaned close and whispered, "If you ever need someone to talk to, I live 2 streets over. No one should carry pain alone." Her words lodged in my heart. For weeks I thought about them. Should I tell her? Could I trust her? What if she thought I was crazy? What if she told Junior? The fear of making the wrong move paralyzed me more than my stroke ever did. Meanwhile, Junior tightened his control. He started keeping the house locked at all times. He took the phone into his room at night. He even checked the mail before I could see it. And then came the day that changed everything. It was late afternoon, the sun dipping low. Junior had gone to pick up groceries. I was sitting by the window staring at the street when I saw Ruth walking by. She smiled and waved. Something inside me snapped. I couldn't stay silent anymore. I waved her over. My heart pounded so hard I thought it would break through my chest. When she came close, I whispered through the screen, "Please help me." Her eyes widened. "What's wrong, Ellie?" I couldn't say it all. Not there, not then. But I whispered enough. "He's hurting me. My son. Please, don't tell him I told you." Her face turned pale. She nodded quickly. "Don't worry. I won't. But I'll come back. We'll find a way." It was the first time I had said it out loud to anyone. The first time the truth left my lips. When Junior returned, I was shaking. I was sure Ruth would betray me, that she would go to him, that he would kill me for opening my mouth. But nothing happened that night. Or the next. Or the next. Instead, Ruth began to visit more often. Sometimes she brought food, sometimes just a smile. Always when Junior wasn't home. And each time I told her a little more. Piece by piece the story spilled out. The baths, the touches, the threats. She never flinched. She never judged me. She just listened. And then one day, she said the words I had been too afraid to imagine. "Ellie, you need to go to the police." The police. The idea sent a chill down my spine. Report my own son? Send him to prison? The thought was unbearable. And yet, wasn't prison where he belonged? I wrestled with the idea for weeks. Every time he laid his hands on me, every time he whispered his threats, the scales tipped further. But before I could make my decision, Junior found out. I don't know how. Maybe he saw Ruth leaving the house. Maybe he overheard us. All I know is one night he came into my room with a look I had never seen before. Cold. Deadly. "You've been talking, haven't you?" he hissed. My blood turned to ice. "I told you what would happen if you ever told anyone." He pulled something from his pocket. It gleamed in the dim light. A knife. The knife caught the light as he tilted it, his face twisted in rage. I had seen my son angry before, but this was different. His eyes were empty, as if whatever humanity had once lived inside him had drained out long ago. "Who did you tell?" he demanded, his voice low but trembling with fury. My mouth was dry. My tongue felt glued to the roof of my mouth. My mind raced. If I said Ruth's name, he would hurt her too. I couldn't risk that. "No one," I whispered, my voice barely audible. He laughed, a cruel, sharp sound. "You're lying. You're always lying. Do you think I don't see it in your eyes? I hear the way you breathe when you hide something. I know you better than you know yourself." The blade in his hand moved closer, until I could feel the cold steel against my cheek. I didn't flinch. I couldn't. I just closed my eyes and prayed. "I gave up everything for you," he hissed. And this is how you repay me? By betraying me? In my head I screamed. You didn't give up your life for me. You stole mine. But my lips stayed sealed. Silence was my only weapon now. He pressed the knife harder, a thin sting blossoming on my skin. I felt the warm trickle of blood slide down my face. My body shook, but not from pain. From rage. A rage I had kept buried for too long. I opened my eyes and forced myself to meet his gaze. If you kill me, I said slowly, then you'll lose the only person who ever stayed. For a moment, just a flicker, I saw something change in his eyes. Doubt? Fear? Maybe even recognition. His hand trembled. The knife wavered. Then he dropped it. It clattered to the floor, the sound ringing like thunder in the silence of the room. But his rage didn't vanish. He grabbed me by the shoulders and shook me so hard I thought my neck would snap. Don't ever cross me again, he spat. Next time I won't stop. He stormed out, slamming the door so violently the walls rattled. I sat frozen, the sting on my cheek burning, my chest heaving. My heart thudded so loudly I thought it might give me away. But then in that quiet after his footsteps faded, something inside me shifted. He hadn't killed me. Not yet. And that meant I still had a chance. The next day Ruth came by. I told her everything, including the knife. Her face went white. Ellie, she whispered. This isn't just abuse anymore. This is life or death. You can't stay here. I shook my head. If I leave, he'll follow. If I call the police, he'll deny it. Who will believe a paralyzed old woman over a man who pretends to be her devoted son? Ruth leaned closer. I will. And I'll help you find others who will too. Her words sparked something in me. For the first time I realized I wasn't completely alone. But leaving wouldn't be easy. Junior was clever. He monitored everything. He checked the locks, kept the phone close, even timed my visits to the bathroom. It was like living in a prison built from blood and guilt. So I played the part. I smiled. I let him feed me. I endured his care. All the while I plotted. Weeks passed. Every night I tucked away little bits of strength. A coin slipped into my pillowcase. A spare key hidden under the mattress. Dried herbs pressed into an envelope I could reach even when he wasn't looking. I didn't know exactly how or when, but I knew one day I'd need them. And then fate gave me an opening. One evening Junior came home drunk. More than usual. His steps were heavy, clumsy. He dropped his keys twice before staggering inside. He collapsed on the couch, mumbling nonsense, and within minutes, he was snoring like a beast. My heart pounded. This was it. My chance. I pulled myself up with the little strength I had, dragging my half-numb leg inch by inch. My body screamed with pain, but I ignored it. I reached for the phone he had left on the coffee table. My hand trembled as I dialed Ruth's number. She answered on the second ring. Ellie. It's time, I whispered. I can't stay another night. There was no hesitation. I'm coming. Stay hidden. Don't let him see you. I hung up, heart racing. I turned toward the couch. Junior stirred, grunted, but didn't wake. I sat in the shadows, waiting, praying. Every second an eternity. And then headlights swept across the window. A soft knock at the back door. Ruth. I dragged myself toward her, every movement a victory. My fingers fumbled with the lock, finally pulling the door open. There she was, her face pale, her eyes determined. Come on, she whispered urgently. She slipped her arm around me, steadying me. But then a sound froze us both. Behind us from the couch, a low growl of a voice. Where the hell do you think you're going? Junior was awake. The moment I heard his voice, my entire body froze. Ruth's arm tightened around me, her breath catching. Junior stood in the living room doorway, his hair disheveled, eyes bloodshot, face twisted with fury. He looked less like my son and more like some demon that had clawed its way out of hell. You think you can leave me? He slurred, his words thick with alcohol but his rage razor sharp. After everything I've done for you? Ruth stepped forward, shielding me with her body. Move, Junior, she said firmly, though I could hear the tremor in her voice. You've done enough. He laughed, a cold, cruel sound. Enough? No, Ruth. She's mine. She's always been mine. You think you can just walk her out of here? Over my dead body. The air crackled with tension. My heart pounded in my chest so loudly it drowned out everything else. I clutched Ruth's sleeve, whispering, "Please don't provoke him." But it was too late. Junior lunged. Ruth pushed me behind her, and for a split second I thought he would strike me. But instead he shoved her so hard she slammed against the wall, the sound of her skull cracking against the plaster making me scream. "Ruth!" I cried. She groaned but managed to stay conscious, holding herself up with trembling arms. "Run, Ellie," she gasped. "Don't look back." Junior turned his attention back to me. His face twisted with a hunger that made bile rise in my throat. "You can't leave me, Mama," he snarled. "You're mine. Always." I tried to move, dragging my half-dead leg across the floor, but he was too fast. He grabbed my wrist and yanked me toward him, his grip like iron. "Where do you think you're going?" he hissed. Something inside me snapped. Decades of pain, humiliation, fear. All of it exploded at once. With my free hand, I reached into the pocket of my housecoat and pulled out the little pouch of dried herbs I had hidden there. I ripped it open and flung the contents into his face. Junior screamed, clawing at his eyes as the bitter powder filled the air. The herbs weren't poisonous, but they burned, and in that moment that was enough. "Run!" I shouted at Ruth. She staggered toward me, grabbed my arm, and together we stumbled toward the door. My heart raced so hard I thought it would burst. Every step was agony, every breath a prayer. Behind us, Junior howled like a wounded animal. "You'll pay for this, Mama. You'll pay." We reached the back door, flung it open, and stepped into the night. The cool air hit my face like salvation. Ruth half carried me down the steps, her body shaking with the effort, but her determination unbreakable. We made it to her car park just down the street. She shoved me inside, slammed the door, and jumped behind the wheel. Her hands shook as she jammed the keys into the ignition. The engine roared to life. But then the front door of my house burst open. Junior stumbled out, his face streaked with powder, his eyes wild. He saw us, and he ran. "Go!" I screamed. Ruth slammed her foot on the gas, the tires screeching as the car lurched forward. Junior sprinted after us, faster than I'd ever seen him move, his hands reaching out as if he could drag us back by sheer force of will. For a horrifying moment I thought he would catch us. His face loomed in the window, his fist pounding on the glass. I screamed. Ruth swerved, and the car jolted forward just enough to throw him off balance. He fell, rolling across the pavement, his scream fading behind us as we sped into the night. My chest heaved with sobs. I pressed my hand against my cheek, still raw from where the knife had cut me days earlier. Tears blurred my vision. "We're free," Ruth whispered, her voice breaking. "Ellie, we're free." But even as I clung to her words, a sick knot twisted in my stomach. Because deep down I knew it wasn't over. Junior wasn't the kind of man to let go. He would hunt me. He would find me. And when he did, I feared the next time he wouldn't hesitate. The next weeks passed in a blur. Ruth took me into her small house at the edge of town, far from the familiar streets of Savannah. She set up a bed for me in her spare room, brought me food, helped me with baths. For the first time in years I felt safe enough to breathe. But the nightmares followed me. Night after night I woke drenched in sweat, my heart pounding, Junior's face etched into the darkness. His voice haunted me. "You're mine. Always." Ruth begged me to go to the police. "Ellie, we have enough. The knife, the bruises, the threats. They'll listen." But fear chained my tongue. What if they don't believe me? What if they let him go? "He'll come after me, Ruth. He'll kill me." She squeezed my hand. "And what if they do believe you? What if you finally get your life back?" Her words echoed inside me. For days I thought about it. Every time I looked in the mirror I saw not just my reflection, but the scar on my cheek, the proof of how close I had come to death. Finally, one morning I told her, "Let's go." We drove to the police station. My hand shook as I gave my statement, every word like tearing open a wound I had tried to stitch shut. The officer listened, his brow furrowed, his pen moving across the paper. When I finished, he looked at me and said, "Ma'am, we'll do everything we can. But you should know, men like him don't go down easy." His words chilled me to the bone. That night, back at Ruth's house, I sat awake long after she went to bed. I stared out the window, the moon casting a pale glow over the yard. My mind replayed every second of my life with Junior, from the first time I held him as a baby to the monster he had become. And then as the night deepened, a sound drifted through the window. A sound that froze my blood. Footsteps. Slow. Deliberate. Coming closer. My heart stopped. I leaned forward, peering into the darkness. And there, just beyond the edge of the trees, I saw him. Junior. Watching me. Waiting. At first, I thought it was just another nightmare. My mind had conjured up so many images of Junior standing outside my window that it almost felt ordinary. But when I blinked and rubbed my eyes, the shadow didn't vanish. It moved. He was really there. Junior stood just beyond the tree line. Half hidden in the darkness, his figure so still it made my skin crawl. The way he stared, cold, unblinking, like a predator waiting for the right moment to strike, sent waves of terror through me. My hands trembled as I reached for the lamp by my bed. The soft light flickered on, and in that glow I saw it more clearly. The face. The eyes. The cruel twist of his mouth. It was him. I wanted to scream for Ruth, but my voice caught in my throat. I pressed my lips shut, my heart hammering against my ribs so hard it hurt. If I screamed, I thought I'd lose what little control I had. I sat frozen, staring at him until, in one horrifying instant, he lifted his hand and waved. It wasn't a friendly wave. It was slow, deliberate, taunting. I gasped and yanked the curtains closed, my body shaking violently. I slid down against the wall, clutching my paralyzed arm against my chest, rocking like a child. He found me. He found me. I don't know how long I sat there before Ruth came in, bleary-eyed from sleep. She rushed to me, wrapping me in her arms, whispering, "Ellie, what's wrong?" I couldn't even get the words out. I just pointed to the window. When she pulled back the curtains, the yard was empty. "Ellie," she said gently, "there's nothing there." But I knew. Deep in my bones I knew. He was there. He had been watching me. The next days were a blur of fear. I barely ate, barely slept. Every sound outside made me jump. Every creak of the house felt like footsteps coming closer. Ruth did her best to comfort me, but I saw the worry in her eyes. Finally she said, "Ellie, you can't live like this. We need to take stronger measures. Restraining orders. Safe houses. Whatever it takes." I nodded, but inside a different fire was building. For years I had been a prisoner in my own home, in my own body. For years I had been silenced, paralyzed not just by the stroke, but by fear, by shame, by love twisted into a weapon against me. But something inside me had shifted. I couldn't run forever. If Junior wanted a final confrontation, I would give it to him. It happened on a Sunday evening. Ruth had gone to visit her sister across town, promising to be back before dark. I sat in the quiet of her living room, staring at the shelves filled with family photos. Her children. Her grandchildren. All smiling, all alive. I thought about my life. My wasted years. My stolen dignity. And a calmness settled over me that I hadn't felt in decades. I lit a small candle on the table, the scent of sage and lavender filling the room. It reminded me of the herbs I sold at the market, the ones that healed others while I hid my own wounds. That's when I heard it. The creak of the back door. Slow. Careful. I didn't move. The footsteps on the kitchen floor. Closer. And then his voice. "Mama." The word was soft, almost tender, but it dripped with poison. I turned slowly, my eyes locking on his figure in the doorway. He looked worse than before, gaunt, wild-eyed, his clothes dirty, his hands shaking. He smelled of alcohol and sweat, his presence filling the room like a storm. "You thought you could run from me," he said, stepping closer. "But you can't. You're mine. You'll always be mine." I forced my body to stay calm, though my heart thundered. "No, Junior," I said quietly, my voice steadier than I expected. "I was never yours. You stole me. You broke me. But tonight it ends." His face twisted. "Don't talk to me like that," he shouted, knocking the candle off the table. The flame sputtered out on the floor. I gripped the armrest of my chair, my knuckles white. "You hurt me for years. You made me believe I was powerless. But you were wrong." He lunged toward me, and in that moment something primal took over. I reached under the cushion of my chair and pulled out the heavy iron pestle Ruth had given me, the one I used to grind herbs. When he came close enough, I swung with every ounce of strength left in me. The pestle connected with the side of his head with a sickening thud. Junior staggered, his eyes wide with shock, blood already trickling down his temple. He stumbled backward, collapsing onto the floor. For a moment the room was silent except for my ragged breathing. I looked down at him lying there, his chest heaving, his eyes still filled with that awful hunger. "You can't kill me," he rasped. "I'll never leave you." Tears streamed down my face. My body shook so hard I could barely hold the pestle. "You already killed me, Junior. 1,000 times over. Tonight, I take myself back." I raised the pestle again, my scream ripping through the house as I brought it down. Again, and again, until the monster that had haunted me for so long finally lay still. When Ruth returned and found me, I was sitting on the floor, covered in his blood, the pestle beside me. My hands shook, but my eyes were clear for the first time in years. She dropped to her knees, holding my face in her hands. "Ellie, oh my God, what have you done?" I whispered. "I survived. The police came. The ambulance came. Questions were asked, statements taken. But in the end, the truth was undeniable. I had been his victim, and in the end I had defended myself. Junior was gone. The nightmare was over. Today, when people see me at the market, they still call me Miss Ellie of the Herbs. They smile, they thank me for my teas and remedies. They don't know the full story behind the scars, behind the tired eyes. But some days when the sun is setting and the breeze carries the scent of sage across the square, I feel something I thought I'd lost forever. Freedom. And for the first time in decades, I believe I might finally deserve it.